don't subscribe to the old school way, nor the new school way, only the optimal way. The 80-20 Baseball Experience with Coach Bo.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome, baseball community. This is Coach Bo with 80-20 Baseball. This episode has me super excited because I love baseball and I love and have a solid appreciation for technology. The goal of this episode is going to be to give you, the listener, a deeper look at technology within baseball player development. By the end of the episode, you'll have a solid understanding of technology's benefits and technology's limitations within the baseball player development sphere. After listening to the whole episode, if you have any questions or if you disagree with any of my takes or if you'd just like to share a comment or thought, please go to 8020baseball.com, send me a message on Twitter at 8020_baseball. Now, hopefully you are thinking to yourself, at least to some extent, what makes me, Coach Bo, qualified to talk about this topic, technology within player development? And that's a good question to have in mind. Here's my answer. I've been in the baseball trenches as a coach, as a player for the last 33 plus years. I've been in the bullpens, in the cages, in the weight room, in the locker room, from T-ball all the way up to the professional ranks. Additionally, I've studied extensively the topic of technology within player development. I've studied topics like the spin rate, spin efficiency, launch angle, exit velocity, pitch design, pitch tunneling, visual training, as well as all the popular technology products, Rapsodo, TrackMan, Blast Motion, Edgartronic cameras, Kinetrax, the various VR simulators like Trinity VR, etc., etc. Now, I'm not here to endorse anyone nor badmouth any methods. I'm discussing this because I want the baseball community to optimize itself. I want to provide the baseball community an unbiased, multi-angled assessment of technology and the use of data within the sphere of player development. I simply want better, more optimized player development within baseball. All right, let's first start with the benefits of tech and data within player development. Number one, technology is fun for players. It just is. It is a lot of fun for players. The instant feedback it provides is fun for players. I'm nearly 40 and I really like tech. And a 15-year-old that has never known a world without the internet or without the iPhone or without all this fascinating technology is likely much more captivated by it than even I am. Tech, simply put, is a ton of fun for this generation of players, and that level of fun is not going to subside anytime soon. Number two, the numbers help coaches more easily create competitions. They make competitions much more easy to create. If you have any experience at all with coaching, you've surely seen firsthand the value of competitions. Great coaches, highly successful coaches, are always saying things such as, I want my players to learn to compete, or they need to get out there and compete on the mound, or they need to be ready to compete when they step foot in that batter's box. And with the infusion of technology into baseball practices and baseball training, gamification, competition has never been easier to create, to use, and to manage. And players love the electronic-based, numbers-based gamification. And that trend, again, will very likely only continue to grow. All right, benefit number three. The third benefit of tech is that it gives coaches quick evidence, immediate feedback, which can be used to support and validate their coaching points. It can help a lot in cutting the latency of player buy-in. This is exactly why I myself used an iPad years ago, 7+. It's so long ago the iPad doesn't even update anymore. And I used it in the bullpen sessions with my pitchers at the time. And I would tell little Chucky, say that his stride needed to be lengthened, say 6 inches. And then to support and illustrate my point, I would then show little Chucky video right there on the spot of his suboptimal stride length, so he could see it with his own eyes. I would even put it side by side. For example, some of the video footage side by side with video of Greg Maddux or Roger Clemens or Pedro Martinez or Mariano Rivera, all the all-time greats. And now that new technology, it takes it to another level and absolutely promotes better and faster player buy-in. Of course, the great players and the highly experienced coaches have never had much of a problem with this. All right, so if you're a very experienced coach, or these great players that just really get it and really understand and really can, connect dots, then you've never had much of a problem with this. But tech does benefit the large group of less experienced coaches, basically any coach that's not super experienced, as well as the players that are not super keen to how their movements and results are interconnected. And we'll touch more about that benefit when we get to number 5 here. But now, for benefit number 4 of tech in baseball player development, it allows coaches to see some physical movements that just can't be seen with the naked eye or in real time. This benefit I speak of here is only something that inherently identifies minor flaws that can at best have only a slight impact on player performance. Major movement flaws are easily noticed by experienced and even lesser experienced coaches without any help from technology. Very few super experienced coaches need high-speed cameras, radar, sensors, body sensors to pick up on the major movement flaws and their major inefficiencies. Their eyes and some basic slow-mo video will surely suffice. With that said, when you get to an advanced level like professional baseball, those minor movement flaws can add a 2% improvement here, a 1% improvement there. And with competition being super stiff at that elite level, it could definitely make a difference between making thousands of dollars, making millions of dollars, or getting cut. Thus, it would be very advantageous at that level, at a highly advanced level, to use technology in this regard. Thus, squeeze a little bit more out of the player's potential. All right, number 5, technology helps less aware players connect the kinesthetic dots faster. Technology definitely helps players that lack experience and those that struggle to pick up on patterns of success, patterns of failure, and how those are connected to their actions, their movements, and the processes that have got them there. Players with keen awareness and those that can connect those kinesthetic dots quickly are just not going to benefit nearly as much from technology in this context. But those kinesthetically challenged players, and they're out there and you know who they are, should benefit from the information that technology can provide them. Benefit number 6. Data allows coaches to much more easily and much more efficiently quantify, collect, and synthesize a player and or a team's training and game results along with workload totals. A simple example of this is tech's ability to eliminate the manually charted bullpens, which was how it was done for years and years and years and years. Clipboard, pencil, and you charted the bullpens, and then you scored them out and things like that. It would eliminate technology, would eliminate the manual inputting. It would eliminate having to input those results into a database, a spreadsheet, and it just instantaneously can just create those, graphs and charts and patterns, and shows you the patterns right then and there. And if not right then and there in the bullpen, definitely right afterwards. This helps the coaches much more efficiently see patterns and problems related to things like effectiveness and workload volume. Benefit number 7 of technology in player development. I won't dive into this fascinating topic here that I'm fascinated with in today's episode, but I will surely talk about it down the road, and it will surely benefit players and teams that use it to its fullest, and that is VR, virtual reality. VR fascinates me, especially for batting practice, and I think to another extent, pitchers throwing bullpens without a catcher, and base runners repping out quick and correct reads without anybody else, maybe even in their living room or at least in the backyard. I'm not going to get into it like I said here, but I think there's a whole heap of possibilities here that could really, really expedite the process of player development and getting players better. However, since this tech, in my opinion, has a lot of improving to do, and even in its limited form is either not available publicly or even available at all, I'm not going to say much more than VR will definitely be a huge game changer throughout the entire baseball community and sports for that matter in the future. And if you're a tech company and, I'm going to stop right there and go back. Go Google LSU using virtual reality or LSU using computer technology to have their defense make better reads on the plays that the opposing offense is going to run and things like that. So they could rep through a bunch of, reads on cues and things. And I'm not going to get into the schematics of football here, but it definitely, and if you go look at quotes, they definitely, the players and the coaches, and they're kind of a little low key on it. They're trying to keep it on the DL, and I don't blame them, but they've given credit to that technology and helping them get better prepared for this last season in which they dominated. Now, if you're a tech company and you'd like to hear a detailed plan that I got about how I would recommend moving forward with VR in baseball and how to optimize it for players and coaches within the context of baseball player development, please email me, please message me. All right. Lastly, technology has and will continue to make things much more efficient when it comes to PD planning. Now, this is important. This is something that can save a whole heap of time. It's going to make things more efficient when it comes to player development planning, sharing, and communication between the entire staff. This goes for, high school. This goes for youth. This goes definitely for college and professional coaches and coaching staffs and even players and teams. Things like Slack and Glip and other software services platforms make communication and sharing within an organization much simpler, much more effective. This is software that it's available everywhere within the business world, but you're going to see it grow in the baseball world. I know there's professional teams already using this. Wouldn't be surprised if there were college teams using this. They're not going to go out and talk a lot about it. Again, this is stuff they don't, they need that competitive advantage. I don't need to worry about that. I'm here to share whatever I have with you. But I definitely think it's going to grow, and it's growing as we speak, and it will greatly benefit the baseball community. It will greatly benefit your team to use these kind of software services. They're easy to learn how to use, and they're very effective to get the entire staff planning and communicating so your players can get better, faster, and everybody can be on the same page much faster, much quicker, and much more efficiently. Those were the benefits of technology within baseball player development. Now for the limitations of tech in baseball. If you're a big technology fan and you live and die by tech, you need to stop the podcast right now. You need to turn this episode off. All right, because I just gave a bunch of benefits, 7 specific benefits of tech. And you can tell I like tech. In fact, I like technology a lot, but there are definitely limitations with technology and its use in baseball player development. Number 1, I'm going to come right out and say that I strongly believe that technology within baseball player and team development is much more limited than the mainstream baseball player development narrative would like you to think. The narrative out there is that it's going to revolutionize everything. I completely disagree, and I'll explain as we move forward. Well, I should say this. I completely disagree that it's going to change it on a grand scale anytime soon. And I'll tell you exactly what I'm talking about as we move forward. What I mean is that relative to many other industries and many other things, baseball is and has been and will continue to be constricted to a very rigid set of rules, a rigid set of field dimensions. The most rigid of all, the absolutes involving the laws of physics. The rules, the field dimensions, the field angles, the human body, the laws of physics are either fixed or have slight variability. And these firm and set parameters make the boundaries of tech's benefits inherently finite or at most largely limited. And the lack of understanding this within the baseball community has led, I believe, to an overvaluation of current technology and how it's going to impact and the size of its impact on baseball player development. Like I said, we have something, baseball, that has very tight parameters. The rules, like I said, the dimensions, the distances, the angles, the equipment restrictions, the laws of human physiology, the laws of physics that cannot be easily adjusted or even adjusted at all. And therefore, there is inherently a firm cap on what can be improved with technology. To be clear, technology can surely help baseball player development, but I feel its perceived benefits are less impactful at this moment in time than the current mainstream narrative would likely make you think, the mainstream narrative within the baseball community. Again, I really like tech. I just think the narrative within the baseball coaching community and the baseball development community has exaggerated or, overvalued the impact that technology currently has and for the near future will have on baseball player development. Now, for the second limitation of technology as it's used in the baseball player development community, it's that the data and the numbers are still heavily results oriented and really only give us dots or single points of measurement. And they largely ignore the many minute steps in the process, in the movements, in the dynamic positioning. The tech available today does not paint the whole picture by any means, and it's not even really that close to doing so. And in many cases, like I said, it paints very little. Some basic examples of this are the result of the swings, bat speed. It gives you a launch angle. It doesn't tell you exactly how to optimize bat speed and how to optimize launch angle. It also gives things like the numeric result of the pitch, speed, things like that, spin access, spin efficiency, but it doesn't at all tell you how to get there. All right. Now that's definitely better than not having any data or technology. It's just a long ways from getting the game or specific skill sets optimized. All right. It still leaves, like I said, a huge void in the player development world. And by nature, results are far easier to associate with success than the process along the way. So, you can say, well, this is a good launch angle, or this is a great bat speed, or this is a great exit velocity, or this is a great pitch velocity. That's easy. That's easy to, not just quantify. Obviously, that's easy to quantify, but it's also easy to determine if it's right or optimal or good or comparing it across the board with player, against player. Creating optimal processes to achieve optimal results is much, much, much more difficult to measure with today's technology. And in fact, it hasn't been done yet, at least not on a publicly available level. The results are separate, isolated points, whereas the process as a whole that generated said result is a summation, an interconnected and interdependent collection of numerous minute steps, movements, and components that are much harder for technology, or more accurately, the humans that build the tech, to accurately assess. Today's baseball tech gives us a bunch of data dots, but as of now, no publicly available tech can effectively connect the dots so as to produce feedback that solves root problems found within even the most common movements, such as a player's swing, pitching delivery, base running technique, etc. Now, we could go on for days discussing the details of this particular topic and limitation. And if you'd like, feel free to reach out to me at Coach Bo at 8020baseball.com, and I'll gladly discuss this further. But for now, we're going to move on to number 3. The third limitation of technology is that it can quickly add on a very large expense to player development. Much of the useful technology out there is out of the financial reach of youth baseball for sure, and most high school programs and even some college teams. As a whole, in today's game, the useful technology helps the teams with deeper pockets while being out of the reach of the vast majority of teams and programs. I'm not saying by any means that tech companies should just give away their products or services or reduce the price down so everyone with $5 can get it. It's just, and I understand those companies have overhead, R&D, and they have employees. They need to put food on their family's table. They owe them a paycheck. They got employees they got to pay, like I said, and not to mention, all the other things that come along with running and the expenses that come along with running a business. So I'm not saying they should just give it away for free, but what I'm saying is it's really only available to those teams, those programs, those organizations with deep pockets. It just is what it is. With that said, there is definitely a gap between what most of the baseball community can afford and the cost required to outfit a team or a program with fancy technology that I really like Rapsodo, Edgartronic cameras, blast motion sensors, force plates, VR simulation, TrackMan for their stadiums, and all the other quality, useful tech that's out on the market. Hey, like I said, it is what it is, and it's just not affordable for the majority of the baseball community. And I don't really see that price point being at a point or coming down to a point where it's going to be affordable for the vast majority of the baseball community anytime soon. Not only that, they're going to have to really make a lot of improvements and advancements in the ability to get it to the layman and get it, to the people that just don't have all day, every day to study it. You need to be able to get it to them so they can use it right out of the box kind of thing, plug and play kind of thing. And they're a long ways from that. So then that's going to cost even more money to get to that level. Now, for the fourth limitation of technology within baseball player development, and that is, at least as of now, that the tech is almost exclusively improving things that only have a small impact on the outcome of games. The impact of tech at this time, at best, is marginal, which can be great for major leaguers or, those professional players that are looking for and need that slight edge. It's useful for those players that are at an advanced place in their careers. Absolutely. But it's far less useful for youth baseball, high school baseball, and even much of college baseball. This is because at those levels, the vast majority of players are not advanced enough. And not only are they not advanced enough, it goes back to just having enough time to get really well versed in how all this technology, not only does each part of it work and each, say, product or service work, but how you can interconnect it to really grow and improve your player development with your team and stuff. Most people just don't have that time. This is something that I think is super important to understand. All this fancy technology that's out there, I love all of it, but it's just not suited for the vast majority of the baseball community. Additionally, at the youth level and at the high school level, and even for the most part at the college level, and even some of the introductory professional, the lower levels, that rookie ball and the independent ball and the short season, and even some of that low A and A ball and even double A to an extent. You can look at it like probably as some players at every level. But definitely at the youth level, at the college level, the high school level, they are just not to a point with their development that they need to be moving on to improving those fringe benefits that I talked about earlier, those marginal improvements, that 1%, that extra 2%. They need to be optimizing the foundational movements, the main skills, the big needle movers, while avoiding the distraction of the trivial small needle movers. That foundational skill, those foundational skills, those core movements, and the foundational strength training absolutely needs to be optimized first before moving on to using the technology to kind of squeeze out that extra 1 or 2%, that extra 5%, that extra 10%. All right, you got to take care of that first 90%, those foundational components before you get onto those little things like, hey, things I really like, but I just don't think the vast majority of the players and the baseball community is to that point yet. Don't put the cart ahead of the horse, all right? Spin rate adjustments, pitch design, etc. Those things, those should be down the road, a long ways down the road. Those should not be anything. High school should not be even. I've coached years and years and years of high school. I played and coached for 33 plus years at all the levels, and I can tell you firmly that I believe that stuff shouldn't even be talked about until, especially with the technology component, really shouldn't even be talked about too much at all until you get to college or professional baseball. And I'm a big fan of it. I just think it's important when and where it's put in there and where it's inputted into the player development process. But to be very clear, I believe technology can definitely assist and improve the vital areas of baseball player development, those big needle movers, in the future. I truly believe that there is going to be technology in the future, not the near future, but in the distant future, that will definitely take care of a lot of the bigger movements, the foundational parts, not just these little things on the edges that help a little here and a little there. Like I said, it's just nowhere, that technology and the technology within the baseball community, it's nowhere even close at this time, especially on a big scale. Now remember, any beginner can read data and compare results, but it takes an experienced expert in both areas, baseball and tech. Now we're talking about how are we going to get that technology to a point where we can really use it for all the movements and all of the skills and techniques and things like that, and all the mechanics and the deliveries and the swing and the pitching and running and everything, how we can use it across the board on a large scale. It's going to take a lot of experience and a lot of expertise in both areas, baseball and technology, to even think about, much less, putting together the technology that can accurately assess an entire set of moving parts, multiple movement planes, and all the things that go into and all the variabilities that go into optimizing an athlete, a player's performance on the field. It's just, I know the people that are in tech and big on tech are not going to like to hear what I'm saying here, but it it is what it is. And I have to be somebody, and I'm trying to be one of those coaches and somebody within the baseball community that's like, hey, I'm neither old school, new school, this, that. I'm just here to give 33 plus years of experience and knowledge to the baseball community in regards to these topics that I think are misunderstood, or even they're not understood fully, or maybe that they are leading certain people and coaches and players down the wrong path. And that's where I'm just trying to step in and help, all right? Limitation number 5. Technology is only as good as the humans that design it, build it, and update it. Garbage in, garbage out. Gold in, gold out. In other words, technology, as most of you already know, is only as smart and as intelligent as the humans that create it. To design and build it optimally in any kind of efficient and effective way requires that the designer, the inventor, the builder, all the inputs not only come from somebody with a very intricate and advanced understanding of technology and how it can be applied to sports and player development, but those people that do the technology have to be paired with somebody, or they themselves have to be somebody with an extensive understanding of the game. And when I say extensive, I'm not talking about somebody who's watched the game or coached youth baseball or their kids' team. I'm talking about somebody who played at a high level, or has coached at a high level, or has coached at a level that they had a lot of experience to test and try different things and study it. It really has to be a student of the game, somebody who's very knowledgeable and very well versed in the optimal movements of the swing, of the pitching delivery, of base running, etc., etc. So just because you know the game and stats and things like that, we're talking about a lot of variables that go into this. I mean, a lot of variables. Not only that, you got to have a lot of experience to see what has worked, what hasn't worked, so you can narrow it down. And that's just not one thing alone. That could be hundreds of variables that you're trying to optimize. All right. So if you're going to build the technology to get, where you can just, wheel it out, and when a pitcher makes a mistake, he can just literally tell it exactly where it needs to be with everything on any flaw, and then it could prioritize those flaws in order of the way they should be corrected. It's going to take a lot of knowledge and a lot of, the technology I think is close, but I think that the coupling of the experience that it takes and the knowledge and the wisdom that it takes, because it's probably not just going to be one person that's going to put that knowledge in there. It's going to be a plethora of people and the wisdom from a lot of different coaches and players that are going to put that in there to optimize the outputs that come from the technology that I'm talking about here. All right, limitation number 6, player development technology and the use of data in player development is largely misassociated with the same data and technology used by front offices that are doing statistical analysis and algorithm building, all that Moneyball stuff. It's just different. It's not the same in player development. It's a completely different, as we'll talk about here, it's a completely different type of technology in the sense that Moneyball stuff is really just math in and of itself, where now you're getting into some way more advanced stuff when you get into player development. So while math is definitely a part of both and will continue to be a part of both moving forward, player development and the stuff that's going on in the front offices as far as evaluating players currently and past performances and future performances, Moneyball math has little and in many cases nothing to do with player development data and technology. It's like oranges and lemons. Yeah, they're both citrus. In other words, they both involve data, but they're not the same thing. One is an orange, one is a lemon. One is purely math, while the other involves physics, physiology, psychology, and math. And I think this belief, this narrative, this paradigm that Moneyball and assessing player value using data is the same or even similar to the data analysis modalities needed to build a better player, to optimize the player, that I think is just really, really, really off basis. The front office math quantifies an MLB player's value, or a college player or whoever's value. It has little or no carryover, like I've said, to optimizing a player's physical health, range of motion, injury prevention. The Moneyball math got nothing to do with joint stability, momentum, balance, timing, movement quality, ground force production, skill technique, repeatability, kinetic energy, and the biomechanics involved with all of this. player development stuff that you need to know and understand to optimize player development, which again is much more complicated than just scraping old websites and almanacs and doing some relatively simple back testing and mean regression. Again, when I say relatively simple, that's not simple for me, but I know for a lot of people out there, that kind of stuff, that Moneyball math is relatively simple for them to do. Those statistical models used to acquire free agents, trade for players, and draft players have been developed to more accurately place a value on a player. Then that same data and technology, like I said, doesn't cross over. Has very little use into player development. And thus the positive impact, the credit that Moneyball deserves as we move forward with player development technology should not be associated. It just shouldn't be put into the same basket. All right. And I see this and I feel that sense that I feel like I'm seeing it and I'm hearing it that we're kind of pulling them together. We're saying, oh, well, Moneyball came about this fast and Moneyball was, this successful this quickly. And it's real easy to understand, even for a layman who just reads a couple books, is probably going to understand a lot of kind of how it works. Now, that being the Moneyball way of, the sabermetrics, that is much easier to understand, and I think it was just inherently going to come about much faster. Now for technology limitation in baseball, number 7. With all of these new machines and all this new cool tech, we are still nowhere close to being able to measure a player's heart or the size of the chip on their shoulder that powers an unpredictable amount of intrinsic motivation. Tell me, what piece of technology that exists, and I'm just using this one anecdotal piece of evidence. I get it's anecdotal, but you've all seen it. If you've been in sports long enough, you've all seen this. You've all seen players. I could name a dozen just off the top of my head, and there's probably 100, 200, 300 in every professional sport that would fit into this category, and I call it the Tom Brady category. What piece of technology exists on this planet that would have shown Tom Brady should have been the first overall pick and not the 199th pick in his draft? The grades on his physical tools got him drafted 199th. The easy to measure parts of his game got him drafted in the second to last round. The chip on his shoulder, his drive to be the best, well, that sure is an extremely valuable part of a player's on-field performance, but technology is so far from being able to see that, much less accurately quantify it, that being a player's mindset. For all intents and purposes, technology is nowhere close and will not be close for the foreseeable future when it comes to quantifying a player's mindset, the on-field success that is intrinsically driven by a couple different things like the chip on the shoulder or the drive to be the best. That stuff inside technology is essentially useless, at least at this time, and definitely for the foreseeable future. Okay, there you have it. Now to recap the benefits of technology in baseball player development. Number 1, technology is a lot of fun for players. Absolutely a lot of fun for players. Number 2, the data, it can help coaches much more easily create and manage competitions, and competitions are awesome and they are needed. And man, if you can get more competitions, that's going to be a big thing. So the data and the technology helps coaches much more easily create and manage competitions. Number 3, the third benefit, it gives coaches quick, immediate feedback, quick evidence, which can be used to support or invalidate their coaching point. This expedites the player buy-in, and on the flip side, it can also help to more efficiently recalibrate the training path a coach and player are taking. Number 4, it allows coaches and players to see some physical movements that just can't be seen with the naked eye nor in real time. Number 5, technology helps less aware players connect the kinesthetic dots faster. Number 6, data allows coaches to much more easily and much more efficiently quantify, collect, and synthesize a player and or team's training and game results, along with other things such as workload totals, etc. Benefit number 7 is more of a future benefit, and that the advantage there is virtual reality. The benefit there is that virtual reality will give players and teams a real leg up, those that use it and utilize it right. It'll give them a huge leg up as it continues to improve and scale. Lastly, software such as Slack and Basecamp has and will continue to make things much more efficient when it comes to player development planning, sharing, and communication between coaches. Now, for the quick review of the limitations, the rules, the field dimensions, the field angles, the human body, the laws of physics are either fixed or only have slight variation or slight variability, and these firm parameters make the boundaries of tech's benefits inherently finite or at best limited. Number two, the technology still leaves a huge void in the player development world because by nature, results are far easier to see and quantify, but creating optimal processes to achieve optimal results is much more difficult, if not impossible, to obtain through today's technology. The third limitation of tech is that it can quickly add on a large expense to player development. Much of the useful technology out there, and it is useful to an extent, is out of the financial reach of the vast majority of the baseball community. Number four, tech within baseball player development as of now only improves things that have a relatively small impact on the outcome of a game. It is not moving the needle much, which can be useful for a super advanced player or at a super advanced level, but distracting for the vast majority of players that need to focus on large foundational components. The fifth limitation, technology is only as good, it's only as smart as the humans that design it, build it, and update it. And it's only as smart as their experience and as the accuracy of their knowledge and wisdom. Number six, technology in player development is not the same as the tech that it was used in Moneyball and that the sabermetricians used. That math of that tech is basically just computer-based, right? And computer software-based, and it's built on statistical backtesting, algorithms, regression to the mean, etc. And it's much harder, if not impossible, to backtest technique and training methods of individual athletes, not to mention the plethora of variables that come into play. We didn't even get into like nutrition, drug use, cheating, and all that stuff. All right, so just it's not the same math, and so we need to make sure that we don't put those two together. Number seven, with all these new machines and all this new cool technology that we have, we are still nowhere close to being able to measure a player's heart or the size of the chip on their shoulder or that drive that they have to be the best ever. That powers an unpredictable and unquantifiable amount of intrinsic motivation. All right, I'd like to finish this episode with a technological side request for the tech people out there. I'd really like to see the development of a portable fMRI machine or something like that parents, coaches, players could use to capture imaging of players' arms that then could be uploaded and sent to qualified physicians that then could assess the current elbow and shoulder health of those pitchers or those throwers efficiently from anywhere in the world. Essentially quality web-based internal arm evaluations. Now, of course, I'd love to see a follow-up to that. If that were something we could get going, that would be awesome. And then have some follow-up, like an individualized prehab or rehab plan for that particular player. All right, you great listeners. That's it for the benefits and limitations of technology within the baseball player development world. You can follow me on Twitter. You can hear more baseball knowledge on Twitter at 8020_baseball, or go over to my website, 8020baseball.com. Read up. We got a lot of great stuff over there. This has been Coach Bo. Take care. Bye for now.
This has been the 80-20 Baseball Experience.
This is a really good team, and so you have to earn everything you have against them and take opportunities when they present themselves.
Take it to the field.
Not only come from somebody with a very intricate and advanced understanding of technology and how it can be applied to sports and player development, but those people that do the technology have to be paired with somebody, or they themselves have to be somebody with an extensive understanding of the game. And when I say extensive, I'm not talking about somebody who's watched the game or coached youth baseball or their kids team. I'm talking about somebody who played at a high level or has coached at a high level or has coached at a level that they had a lot of experience to test and try different things and study it. It really has to be a student of the game, somebody who's very knowledgeable and very well versed in the optimal movements of the swing, of the pitching delivery, of base running, etc., etc. All right, so just because you know the game and stats and things like that, we're talking about a lot of variables that go into this. I mean, a lot of variables. Not only that, you got to have a lot of experience to see what has worked, what hasn't worked, so you can narrow it down. And that's just not one thing alone. That could be hundreds of variables that you're trying to optimize. All right, so if you're going to build the technology to get, where you can just, wheel it out, and when a pitcher makes a mistake, he can just literally tell it exactly where it needs to be with everything on any flaw, and then they could prioritize those flaws in order of the way they should be corrected. It's going to take a lot of knowledge and a lot of, the technology, I think, is, close, but I think that the coupling of the experience that it takes and the knowledge and the wisdom that it takes, because it's probably not just going to be one person that's going to put that knowledge in there. It's going to be a plethora of people and the wisdom from a lot of different coaches and players that are going to put that in there to optimize the outputs that come from the technology that I'm talking about here. All right, limitation number 6, player development technology and the use of data in player development is largely misassociated with the